Okay, I believe we are live here. My name is Joshua Music, and this is Erika Smiley. Thank you all for joining us tonight. My dad, who is the normal person to be doing these live streams, Marvin Music, I'm sure you know of him. He is in India right now. It took him like 48 hours to get there. He had a bunch of plane delays, but you guys drew the short straws tonight, and so we are going to be talking a little bit about some Medicare stuff, and then we'll answer some questions. Before we get into everything, though, if you're here with us, can you just type into the chat where you're tuning in from? Love to see that. Kind of allows us a little space to get the room filled. We are in I am in our headquarters in Overland Park, Kansas. Erika is in Indiana.
Yeah.
Outside of Indianapolis.
In the cornfields of Indiana.
And we're in the Great Plains of Kansas, maybe. California, Brian, hello. Janet from Arizona. Mary from Minneapolis. John from Indiana. Or Indiana, Pennsylvania, whatever that is. Okay, Teresa, it's going too fast. Lewis from California, welcome. New York, Sciotech, Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, San Antonio, Texas. Sisters, Oregon. I always thought that was an interesting town name. Let's see. Nebraska, Houston, Texas. Welcome, Tanya from Georgia. Jetta from St. Louis. Hi, this is Andy from beautiful Maryland. Hi, Andy. Thanks for joining us. Seattle area near the Canadian border. Awesome. Okay, well, welcome, everybody. Thanks for being with us. Okay, so today we are going to talk to you about an enrollment period that we're in. A lot of people, there's a lot of energy that is spent around the annual enrollment period called AEP, which runs from October 15th to December the 7th. And it's the time when people generally associate switching their Medicare Advantage plan or their prescription drug plan. And so we just got off that period about a month ago now. And it was a lot of work for everybody. And a lot of people made plan changes this year because a lot of people lost their coverage. But believe it or not, we have a period of time that we're in right now that's called the open enrollment period, not to be confused with the annual enrollment period. So we're going to teach you all a little bit about that, who it applies to, what changes you can make, because really it's designed to help those of you who made mistakes or second guessing coverage decisions from last year. So we'll go into that, but before we do, just want to say thank you all. Many of you are probably our clients, but here at MedicareSchool.com, our mission is really just to educate people. We felt like Medicare was very confusing, and most people just wanted to sell people around the country a plan. Started with sales, and so 5 years ago when we started MedicareSchool.com, our goal was to really start with education and then act as your broker if we can help you get into a plan. So just reverse everything. Instead of selling you a plan, we want you to understand what you have. So that's why we put a lot of attention. That's why my dad puts a lot of attention. That's why Erika puts a lot of energy into education here on YouTube and all over the place. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Erika Smiley. She's going to talk to you about the Medicare enrollment period that is happening right now. Started 5 days ago.
Yeah, well, thank you, Josh. And I will say, your dad is a saint for going over there to India, because I traveled over the holidays. I had a 2-hour layover, and that was enough for me. So a 48-hour flight to India, I could not do that. So we will miss Marvin tonight, but we're happy to be here with you guys. And I hope everybody's 2026 is off to a great start. And yeah, Josh kind of took a little bit of my opening here, but a lot of you might be thinking, we thought we just came out of the big Medicare enrollment period, right? The big AEP that we talked about last fall that ended December 7th. But that's the thing. A lot of people didn't know there's another enrollment period, like Josh said, that started January 1st, and this runs through March 31st, called the open enrollment period. Now, this could be a little confusing because maybe if you've seen a lot of our videos, there's another OEP that we talk about, and that's actually the Medigap OEP. So I don't want you to confuse these two things. The Medigap OEP, that has to do with getting a supplemental plan. And that lines up with when you start Part B, getting a supplemental plan without underwriting. That's the Medigap OEP. But what we're in right now, this first quarter of the year, it's called the Medicare OEP. And I've actually seen it referred to as the Medicare Advantage OEP, because really it's the people with Advantage plans that are making the changes right now. So we're going to talk about who is this enrollment period for? What are the changes that can be made? And then really kind of dig a little bit into why would you want to make changes, right? You have an Advantage plan right now. You're like, do I even need to make a change, right? So let's talk about that a little bit. First of all, who is this enrollment period for? Well, first of all, anyone who's already enrolled in an Advantage plan. So if you're enrolled in an Advantage plan right now, you can make changes. And this is good because like Josh said, it was crazy, hectic, busy during AEP. I don't know how many guides we have. How many guides do we have, Josh? Between maybe 30 to 50 guides?
Yep. Yeah, 35 right now.
35 guides. And they were working 15 hours a day. I mean, they were on the phones constantly trying to help people. But a lot of people just kind of put it off or they didn't get to it. And they were worried, I'm stuck with this Advantage plan. I'm not going to be able to change it. But the thing is if you're already on an Advantage plan right now, you can make changes between January 1st and March 31st. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Now, this is not for people who are on original Medicare. So what you can't do during this time period, if you have a supplemental plan right now, let's say you're on original Medicare, you have a supplemental plan and you can no longer afford that supplemental plan. So you're like, hey, I need to get out of this plan G or this plan N, and you want to go to an Advantage plan. Unfortunately, people with original Medicare can't make changes during this period. You would have to wait and hold off until next fall's AEP. Okay. And then the last group of people that this is for, there might be some of you out there, I hope there's not too many, but maybe you did not enroll in Medicare when you first had the opportunity to. So you can come into Medicare during your IEP, that's your initial enrollment period, when you first turn 65. This is a 7-month window of when you can first enroll in Medicare. The other opportunity you have is if you're coming off of an employer plan or group employer coverage, then you have what's called an SEP or a special enrollment period. Well, if you kind of just snoozed on both of those enrollment periods and you did not sign up for Medicare and now you need to, this is the time of year. They also consider it kind of the general enrollment period for Medicare, where if you need to sign up for Medicare and you're not inside one of those other enrollment periods, you can. Okay. Now, hopefully, like I said, a lot of you don't fall into that category because that can include penalties and things like that. Okay. If you didn't sign up for Medicare when you first should have. So let's talk a little bit about what are some of the changes that we could make and how can you make those changes. So first of all, if you have an Advantage plan and you would like to shop Advantage plans and switch it, you can do so during the first quarter of the year. Okay. So maybe you got that annual notice of change letter last fall and something's changing with your plan. You didn't make a change. You can do that. Now you are allowed to have one change during this OEP. So you're allowed to change one time. And the way it works is when you make the change, your new Advantage plan would start the first of the following month. So let's say you called in, talked to one of our guides and made a change this week, that new plan would start February 1st. If you made the change in February, that new plan would start March 1st. And if you made the change in March, it would start April 1st. Okay, so that's how that kind of works. Now, another way you can change if you're a person who has an Advantage plan, you can switch to another Advantage plan, but maybe you're tired of the Advantage plan system. Maybe you're like, hey, I tried out the Advantage plan system. I don't really like the pay-as-you-go. I want to go back to original Medicare and get a supplemental plan. So if you don't want to do Advantage plan anymore, you want to go back to original Medicare and get a supplemental plan, you can do that during this time frame, okay? Now, if you have to go through medical underwriting or not, depends on how long you've had an Advantage plan. So if this is the first time you had an Advantage plan, there is something called a 12-month trial right window where it lets you try out and test out an Advantage plan for 12 months. If you don't like it, you can go back to original Medicare and get a supplemental plan with no medical underwriting, okay? But if you've had an Advantage plan for longer than 12 months, you're possibly going to have to go through underwriting. But that's okay. All that is really about 35 medical questions that we ask you about your health, about your background. And if you're healthy, there's a great chance you could pass that and still go back to original Medicare and get a supplemental plan like a Plan G or a Plan N, okay? So again, Advantage plan people can switch to another Advantage plan right now, or an Advantage plan person can say, done with Advantage plans, I want to go back to original Medicare and get a supplemental plan and a Part D drug plan, okay? Again, right now, outside of that, supplemental people cannot go to Advantage. Supplemental people can't switch Part D drug plans right now. That had to have happened during AEP. Now, I will make a side note about that. If you have a supplemental plan and you're like, hey, I like supplemental plans, but mine's getting a little pricey. I think I want to shop that and see if I could get a better rate. Maybe you're on a G and you want to go to an N, or you're on an N and you want to go to a G. We can always change supplemental plans any time of year. So that, just reach out to us. We can help you shop supplemental plans and get a better rate. But the one thing you can't do right now, you can't go from a supplemental plan into the Advantage system. That has to happen during AEP in the fall. Okay. So let's talk here a little bit about if you have an Advantage plan, because maybe you didn't pay much attention in the fall to that letter you got. Maybe you're just busy getting ready for the holidays and it kind of flew by and you're like, should I change my Advantage plan? Why would you maybe want to change an Advantage plan? Well, one of the things is if they've changed your plan on you. So keep in mind, these Advantage plans, they're calendar year plans. So they're annual plans, and they can change. So maybe your plan, you were in a PPO plan and they're changing you to an HMO plan. Possibly maybe your doctors are no longer in network for your plan. That's a change that could happen. Sometimes they will change how much you have to pay. So it could be the premium you pay for the plan, or maybe your co-pays, or your max out of pocket. The max out of pocket is the most you would have to pay in a calendar year if you max out your plan. So maybe last year on your Advantage plan, your max out of pocket was $3,000, but this year it went up to $6,000. That may be a reason you want to shop around and look for another plan, okay? So again, those might be some reasons that you want to change your Advantage plan. Maybe you've moved and you're in a new area. That's a reason why you could shop for a new Advantage plan. All these kind of things together, okay? So that's just kind of quick overview. And again, just to kind of recap, this is mainly for people who have Advantage plans and they want to make a switch. So don't worry if you had a plan during AEP that changed and you want to make that change, you can still do that. You can just give us a call, go to our website. Our guides are always happy to talk with you and we can shop all the different Advantage plans. There are a lot of plans out there. So don't feel like you have to stay with the same plan, okay? And then again, if you're on an Advantage plan and you want to go into the original Medicare system and get a supplemental plan and a Part D drug plan, that's something you can do right now as well also. So that's kind of the basics of it. Anything else you would add to that, Josh, that you think would be good to throw in?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. It was really originally designed for people who felt like they made a mistake during the annual enrollment period. They got on a plan, they started using it for a month or two. So maybe you got on a new plan and you don't even know yet. Just remember, you can use this all the way up until March 31st. You can make a change and the plan will go into effect the very first day of the next month. But even if you didn't change last year and you feel like you just want a different plan, maybe you fell asleep during the annual enrollment period and you're just now deciding you want to make a change to a plan that you've had for a while, you can make a change. But it's for people who have Advantage plans. That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
But that's great, though. So if somebody did switch their Advantage plan in AEP, but now they still want to make another change, they can, correct?
Yes.
One change they can make.
Yeah,
okay.
One change. You can't use this multiple times, just one time. Okie dokie. Thanks, Erika. Let's do this. Hey, guys, we're going to answer questions. We will stay here for quite some time answering your questions. So I've been doing Medicare. We've been doing Medicare here at MedicareSchool.com for like 15 years, I think, is when my dad and I started. So we probably don't know all the answers to your questions, but we probably know a lot. And those that we don't know, we'll do our best to tell you and then tell you maybe to call in and we can help you personally one-on-one. So go ahead, take a moment, drop your questions in the chat, and we will get to them. So let's scroll up. Daniel, are you going to pop one up here for us? Okay. Cynthia Green says, how do I contact the Medicare school because I'm ready to apply for Medicare after leaving the government for 27 years? Okay, well, there is a phone number. I think it's scrolling up around the top of the screen up here. Here in just a minute, that logo is going to flip and it's going to put a phone number. I think it's 833-3661. Yes, that's my memory served me correctly. You can call us here. We have people still. We're open from 7 o'clock a.m. Central Time to 7 p.m. Central Time every day, Monday to Friday. So feel free to give us a call. We can schedule an appointment with one of our people. And remember, the goal here is to make sure you understand and feel confident in your coverage, not just sell you a plan and go on down the road. One of our most important divisions here at MedicareSchool.com is our client support team, and they are here all day long answering your questions. If you call in, if you move, you need to make plan changes, we are always going to be here for you. If you have claims issues, we're here for you. If you lose your insurance cards, we're here for you. What I don't want you to ever think is that we are just going to sell you a plan and then move on down the road, because that is not how we operate and do business. So call us 833-833-3661, and we would love to help you. What is the best gap plan for a type 2 diabetic? No insulin, healthy otherwise. The most popular Medigap plans right now are two. There's really three that have been around for a while. Plan F, which was the full coverage plan, which meant once you had original Medicare A and B, right? A doesn't cost anything. B has a premium. It's a couple $100s a month. And then you have a supplement plan or a Medigap plan to fill in all the stuff that A and B doesn't pay. That Plan F was the full coverage plan. So if you had A, B, and an F plan, it was 100% coverage. You never had to worry about a bill. One step down from that was a Plan G. And it was very, very similar to an F plan, except you were responsible for the Medicare Part B, as in boy, deductible. Erika, what's the B deductible in 26? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, it's going to be $283. So if you have a Plan G or a Plan N, you're going to pay the first $283, and then after that, the plan would kick in.
And it pays 100% after that. So that's a great option, a Plan G. You can't get a Plan F anymore unless you were eligible for Medicare before January 1st, 2020, which is probably not most of you that are watching this. So Plan G is a wonderful option. The other plan you could consider would be a Plan N, as in Nancy, and a Plan N is similar to a G plan as well. You're responsible for that deductible $283, meaning the first time you go to a doctor, maybe the first and second time, you're going to have to pay a little bit out of pocket. After that, it's 100% coverage. You could, have a car accident, have cancer, have a heart attack. Hopefully none of this happens, but you could have all this stuff and it would still be 100% coverage. So you pay that deductible. But the difference between a Plan G and a Plan N is really you're going to have a small copay when you go to the doctor, right? So a Plan N copay to see a doctor is like $20. If you go to the emergency room, it's $50. So you're going to save a little bit of premium dollars by going one step down to a Plan N from a Plan G, but you're going to pick up that extra copay, which is not really a big deal depending on how much you use. A lot of people for years went with F, and then a lot of people for years went with G, and we're seeing more and more people buy Plan N. But a lot of it comes down to what's the premium difference, because it's going to vary state by state, carrier by carrier. But if you call us, we can kind of walk you through those options and then help you make a decision.
Yep.
Okay, Erika, take this one if you'd like.
All right. I'm currently working and have insurance through my employer. I plan on retiring this year in October. I did apply for Part A when I turned 65 in 2025. Okay, so you have Part A already. You're still going to work and you're going to retire in October. So I guess what's the question here, Bernie? It sounds like you're doing good. You can stay on your employer plan. And then when you retire in October, that'll give you your SEP where you can enroll in Medicare, okay? So I would say start that process maybe 60 to 90 days out, because Bernie, you're going to need a couple forms. There's a form called an L564.
Yeah, let's put that in the chat, Daniel. L564.
Yeah. L564, and this is a form that you're going to take to your employer, and they're just going to sign off on that to show that you've had employer coverage back to age 65. And then the other form is called a CMS 40B. So if you want to throw a 40B in there, and if you guys call us and work with us, our guides will help do this with you. But it takes a little bit longer. There's a couple steps you have to go through. So like I said, I would, if you know you're going to retire in October, I would take it in about 60 to 90 days out and start the ball rolling on that. But you've already got A set up, so you'll be good to go, and you'll just enroll in B. they'll ask you if you want to enroll in Social Security at the same time when you sign up for Medicare. But yeah, so it sounds like you're good to go. If you have another question on top of that,
Yeah,
let us know.
I'm going to say something here. So I have called a lot of these, I would say, our competitors. And there's a lot of great companies like us in the Medicare insurance space. We are by far not the only ones, but there's a lot of really bad ones as well. And I remember distinctly, I got a call from one of them. It was a cold call, telemarketing research or reach out. And I remember exactly where I was. I was driving down the exit ramp. I was getting ready to turn off to my neighborhood. And I got this call, and I thought, well, you know what? I'm obviously not Medicare age, but let me play with them a little bit and see kind of how good they are. And the person introduced himself. This is John from so and so, whatever. And they said, "Do you have Part B?" And I said, "No, I don't have Part B yet." Click. Just hung up because he knows without Part B being in place, he ain't going to sell you a plan today. It's just not going to happen, right? Because it's you have to have Medicare Part A and B in place. So, Bernie, what I would tell you is you don't have to work with us, but if you do work with us, we will help you with that CMS 40B. We'll help you with that CMS L564. That's going to get you into Medicare penalty-free without any gaps in coverage, and they'll help you compare drug plans, advantage plans, supplement plans, all that other stuff. It's just a service that we decided long ago we were going to help people with the whole process, not just sell you a plan and move on down the road. So we'd be an honor to help you. But like Erika said, 60, 90 days, start 90 days in advance of when you're eligible or when you plan on retiring. And we'd be honored to help you.
Good deal. All right, let's see. Rosalind is TRICARE for Life needs to get a supplemental or vision and dental? So no, if you have TRICARE for Life, I'll tell you there's a lot of different options with that. You have to enroll in Medicare when you turn 65, right? Because TRICARE is going to move to a second payer position. But you probably don't need a supplemental plan because you have excellent coverage with Medicare and TRICARE. But what we usually recommend for people, and since you brought up the vision and the dental, a lot of people will do something. It's called an MA only plan. So what we'll do is you'll enroll in Medicare Part A and B. You'll have your TRICARE as a second payer. But with this MA Advantage plan, it will get you some extra perks. Like the vision and like the dental, it has some benefits in that. So that's usually what we recommend a lot of times to people who have TRICARE. Anything you'd add to that, Josh?
Yeah, you can, the MA only plan, and they're often described, or like the name for these plans is like the Patriot plan or the Eagle plan, right? Because you serve our country. And so there's special plans that exist for you that kind of coordinate with Medicare and give you a lot of extra benefits. Doesn't take anything away from the TFL, TRICARE for Life, but it just adds some stuff. And so we'd be happy to walk you through all of those options. You also have the opportunity to, stick with that and not get one of those MA only plans, even though you probably should. I feel like you're just leaving a lot of benefits out on the table. And we could talk to you about just getting a standalone vision and dental plan, because I do not believe TRICARE for Life covers, they're going to, if you get in a wreck and get your jaw busted up, that's one thing. But they're not going to cover that routine dental and vision once you go on Medicare. So,
yeah. I was going to say, in the Advantage plans, they have like a dental and vision benefit, but it's not a super robust. So I would say we'll talk to you, and that's where we say, hey, what kind of dental do you need? Is it just basic cleanings and visits, or you got some crowns and root canals in your future? And like Josh says, we've got some standalone dental plans that start around $35 a month that we can also check out for you, and vision plans too. So.
Yeah, I think the max benefit one of our best dental plans has is like, I think it'll pay up to $10,000 a year on your teeth, but it goes all the way down to $1,000 to $10,000. Just depends on how much you want to pay.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. Sharon says, I'm a member of a medical cost sharing program about to turn 65. I'm trying to figure out the pros and cons of signing up for Medicare either instead of or in addition to my current plan. Yeah, you're definitely going to want to sign up for Medicare if you have that. Here's what I would recommend. Why don't you, because it's hard to kind of give you advice on this, like the cost sharing plan. Call us, schedule an appointment, right? You can go online to our website, medicareschool.com, or call that number up in the top right-hand corner of the screen, and let us just compare these benefits side by side. And I'm going to say that for many of you, if you're on employer coverage, we're seeing about half the time it makes sense if you're on employer coverage to go to do a comparison. What is Medicare going to cost? Sometimes it costs a little bit, maybe more in premium, but your benefit is way better, right? So if you have a plan G, what is your deductible? $283, and then it's 100% coverage after that. We're seeing a lot of employer group plans. They got $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 deductibles, and so it's just a good idea to compare. So Sherry, I say call us. Let us kind of like compare the cost between what you have and what's available on Medicare, and then we'll just be honest with you, tell you if it's the right move and what all you need to do for sure. Erika, take it.
Awesome. Yeah. So can you get rid of an Advantage plan and go to a Medigap plan? So yeah, that falls in line exactly with what we're kind of talking about tonight, this OEP period. You can do that. So between January 1st and March 31st, call in, get an appointment with us, and we can kind of talk with you. The only caveat is that if you've been on an Advantage plan 12 months or less, we may be able to get you a guaranteed issue and get you in a Medigap plan, but you might have to go through medical underwriting. And I think from your profile picture that you had asked about being diabetic. So I'll throw in there, don't be scared of having to go through medical underwriting, because a lot of times, even if you're diabetic, they'll ask questions very specifically, like, are you on more than 50 units of insulin, right, to control it? So just because you have a condition like that doesn't necessarily mean you won't make it through medical underwriting. But yes, you can do that. You can try and get back into an original Medicare and a supplemental Medigap plan, but you may or may not have to go through medical underwriting.
And now's the time to do it. Up until March 31st.
Or March 31st. Yeah.
Okie dokie. What does Medi-Cal versus Medicare Advantage do for me? Medi-Cal, I believe, is the California State Medicaid.
Correct. Yeah.
So I don't know if you know a lot about Medi-Cal, Erika, or not. If so, you can take it. But I believe it's just going to be a Medicaid. And so what we can do is there are plans that are called a DSNP, Dual Special Needs Plan. And so what we can try to do, if you call us, is we can work to find a plan that coordinates both with Medicare and Medi-Cal. And it would be a type of a Medicare Advantage plan, but really just gives you, I mean, at that point, it's like max benefit, max, all the stuff with basically no cost. And there's going to be different levels and that you would qualify for. And so, call us. We can look up your level. We can help you find a plan that coordinates well with all of that so that you can get everything that is available to you.
Yeah, and the Medicare Advantage plan, you need to have that because that's filling the gaps of Medicare, right? So that's just going to be the insurance that goes with Medicare. But like Josh said, I'm not super familiar with Medi-Cal, but it depends all on what level you're at, what they could possibly pay for all of your copays. They could pay for your max out of pocket, and you get your drugs covered for free. It just depends on what your coverage is. So yeah, definitely check on that and see what you qualify for.
Call us. The phone number up, 833-833-3661. Love to help you.
You say that so good. 33333.
I've said it a lot, I guess. I feel like I'm on a radio show. Okay. I thought going to a supplemental plan G to N, you had to go through underwriting. That is true. Yeah. In the vast majority of states, that is true. There's some, maybe certain states or certain scenarios where you may not have to, but generally to go from a supplement plan G to an N or from a supplement G to a G, with a different carrier, you're going to have to go and answer those health underwriting questions. Now, we actually have carriers nowadays. They're getting a little more modern. They're getting a little more tech focused. They're getting a little more automatic. We don't have to ask you health questions. We can just type in your social security number, type in your little bit of your information. It does a medical information bureau check. It does a prescription drug plan check because everything's electronic these days. And it basically says, are you approved or not? So literally in 30 seconds, we can know, are you approved for coverage or not? You don't have to answer a bunch of health questions. It's our favorite way to do it for sure, and it's very quick. So if you want to make a switch, call us. We can see if there's a better price and probably pretty quickly tell you if you qualify to go to a different plan. And if you do, what are the benefits? What are the drawbacks, the pros and cons for sure.
Okay, let's see. I'm turning 65 this month. I have health insurance for all of 2026. Okay. Through my current job, do I have to get on Medicare now or can I wait until next year? So no, you do not have to enroll in Medicare just because you're turning 65, but there's a couple things. So as long as you're with a large employer, so Pat, if your employer has 20 employees or more, and you want to stay on that employer plan, you can. So what we talked about, that SEP, that special enrollment period, you would just keep working as long as you want to, stay on your employer plan, and then when you're ready to retire, you would come in through that SEP, okay? But here's the thing, and Josh kind of brought it up. We do talk to people a lot of times who don't have the best employer plan. So I encourage you to kind of, this is a thing where I would talk to one of our guides and just compare, what do you pay for your employer plan? What are your out of pockets? What is your max out of pocket on that, right? What's your coverage look like? A lot of times people want to go to Medicare because it either will save them money, or possibly they just want the freedom to see any doctor. You might have a really strict employer plan that's like an HMO or something like that, where you have to see certain doctors. If you get original Medicare and a supplemental plan, there's a lot of freedom. You can see any doctor, any specialist. You don't have referrals. You don't have prior authorizations. So I would say give us a call to compare. But no, if you're with a large employer of 20 or more, you absolutely do not have to enroll in Medicare when you turn 65. Now, the one thing I will add to that, if you decide to stay on your employer plan, you can enroll in Part A only. So Part A only, unless one thing, if you have an HSA at work and you're contributing to an HSA, then you would not want to take Part A, okay? Because those HSA, those health savings accounts, they're wonderful. They're kind of like medical IRAs. But if you sign up for Part A, they no longer let you contribute new money to that. So I would say if you're not contributing to an HSA at work, you could stay on your employer plan, enroll in Part A. It might help you pay some of your co-insurance if you're hospitalized. But if you are on an HSA, I would just do nothing, stick with the employer plan until you're ready to retire. Okay. All right.
Awesome. So if I switch from an Advantage to a Medigap, it's not too late to add a Part D plan also.
That's true. That's
well,
correct.
If you switch from an Advantage to a Medigap back during the annual enrollment period, I believe it's too late.
No, you can still get a Part D plan during
OEP?
this. Yeah,
okay.
That's one of the things that's confusing because, and I had to look this up twice before I got on here today, but that during AEP, that's when people could switch their Part D plans who just had supplemental plans, right? Anybody could switch. It was like free for all with the Part D drug plans. We could switch them. Right now, the only person really who can add a Part D plan is exactly that case. If you're on an Advantage plan, you want to leave the Advantage system and go to a Medigap plan, you can add a Part D drug plan until March 31st.
Okay, you're right.
Until March 31st. But that is tricky. I had to look that up because we kept telling everybody in AEP, hey, this is the only time to change your drug plan. But this is one little caveat where if you do go from Advantage to supplemental, you can get a Part D plan.
As long as you had an Advantage first. Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Next question, Daniel. Turned 65 in May, but was incorrectly told by an independent agent that I could stay on my marketplace coverage till I wanted to change my coverage. Just became aware that is not true. Any help? Okay, yeah, that's kind of a disaster. I'm sorry for that, but it's easily remedied. So let's kind of work through this. So you turned 65 in May. You can stay on that marketplace coverage, but you lose all your subsidies and it becomes very expensive and there's no point to do it. So you should get off. Right now we're in a period, not only OEP, we're also in a period called GEP, which stands for General Enrollment Period. And that also runs from January 1st to March 31st, but that is for enrolling in Medicare A and B. So you need to do that. You need to enroll in Medicare. You can go online. You can call us. We can help you do this all online, help you enroll in Medicare A and B. And then we will be able to help you get on an Advantage plan or a supplement plan, whatever. But you do need to do that. Now, if you do it right now, call us right now, call us tomorrow. We would be able to get all of your coverage beginning February the 1st. And I don't think, because you haven't gone a full 12 months without coverage, I don't think there's going to be any penalty for you. I believe that is true. So if you go more than that first 12 months, then there will be, but I don't think you're going to have a penalty for not enrolling. But that's unfortunate that you were given that bad advice. So give us a call. Let's get you enrolled in A and B under the General Enrollment Period. Coverage will begin next month, and then we'll help you get on this up and Advantage or whatever you need. I was told for 2025, if on extra help, you are allowed monthly to change Medicare Advantage plans. Medicare Rep. True. I don't believe you can change every month. Is it quarterly now, or that might have gone away altogether? Um, Let me check into that. Let's go to the next question. Let me check into that because there was a change that was made with that, and I don't want to tell you the wrong thing. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll look at this one while you
Yeah.
look that up. So I plan on retiring April 1st of 2026. I've been on work insurance, no Medicare yet. I have the forms from my employer showing hubby and I have been on work insurance. Worried about getting penalized. Okay, so here's the deal. I don't know when your birthday is, but you're fine as long as you have had no gaps in coverage back to age 65. That's the big thing with the SEP, right? Getting that special enrollment period. So Juliet, you could be 80 years old and still working, right? If you retire on April 1st, as long as you've had employer coverage and you've been on a work plan, you will be fine. All you've got to do, you've got the forms. You said you have the forms. So you just have your HR department fill out that form showing you've had coverage. You turn that in, you will not get a penalty. You'll be fine. Now, if you've had gaps in coverage or you had times when you weren't covered between now back to age 65, you would mess up and have some issues with that SEP. But if you've been on an employer plan, you'll be good to go. Okay. And again, we can help you out with that if you need help filing that paperwork. Right. Did you find anything on the?
I'm still looking up, so we'll
Okay.
do it in a minute. Yeah,
Let's take
come
another
back.
question here. Okay. All right. Stan's asking, I turned 62 this year, but I don't plan on starting Social Security for several years as I'm going to continue working. Is there anything that I need to do at this time? At this point, I plan on waiting until my full retirement age. So no, Stan, if you can hold off, that's going to grow, right? So your full retirement age, if you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is going to be 67 years old. Okay. So if you can hold off, you will get your full benefit amount. A lot of people will grow it past that to age 70. It's funny. People get real heated when we make videos about when to take Social Security. People have big opinions, right? They're like, you don't know how long you're going to live. You should take it early. Other people say, hold off and take it later. But no, there's nothing you need to do, because this question isn't about Medicare. We're talking about Social Security. I'd say when you're ready, just go to ssa.gov and you'll be able to enroll in the Social Security there when you're ready to go. Okay.
Okay, got an answer to this. I was thinking of a different enrollment period change that changed last year. But if you have extra help, and we're talking about drug plans, if you have Medicare and Medicaid, or you get extra help for paying for Medicare drug coverage, you can make a change once per calendar month, and that change will take effect on the first day of the next month. So that's good for next year. That information that you had is correct.
So they can change Advantage plans every
No,
month.
no. Drug plans. We're talking about drug coverage.
Okay.
Yes.
Drug coverage.
Yes,
That's
drug
good to
coverage.
clarify that. Okay, I did not know that. Okay. All right, good question.
My income was 108,375 in 2024. I start Medicare on 8/1/2026. Will I have an IRMA or not? Thank you. I plan to use you for my Medicare. Okay, let me look up the IRMA 2020.
Appreciate
Is it
that.
109?
Well, it's 109 if they're single. So were you single? I take it single and filing single. It is 109 for this coming year.
Okay, so in that instance, he would not have an IRMA. So you were $625 positive. So that's good. So you won't have an IRMA, and obviously, if you're married filing jointly, then that's twice as much. So it's 218 probably. So I don't think you're going to. And remember, it's always based upon 2 years ago, which you seem like you know already.
Yeah, you did good on that.
If you do have an IRMA and you need help appealing it, we would be happy to do that. We have all those forms. We have a little instructional video. We can help you one-on-one if you have questions. For those of you who do have a high income. And remember that it's not, do I have an IRMA, which stands for Income Related Monthly Adjusted Amount, which is just a tax, basically. It's a surcharge on your Medicare Part B and your Part D if you have higher incomes above the thresholds. But there's like 4 or 5 layers, right? And so a lot of times people think, oh, well, I have the surcharge, and then they don't realize that they could appeal it, and it can go down a layer or 2. So if you have that, it's always a good idea to kind of brush up on that. We would love to help you figure out if there's ways to save you some money on that Medicare surcharge.
All right. I have plan A, B, and G. If I get a job now that offers benefits, do I take the benefits or how does that work? I haven't worked all the way through 2025. All right, good question, Karen. So a lot of people think, hey, once I'm in Medicare, do I have to stay in Medicare if I start working again? So no, I mean, you can disenroll from Part B. You can do that. So if you're going to go back to work and you're going to be working for, a year or two and you have great benefits, then you can do that. You just disenroll. There's a form. I don't know the form. I want to say it's a 1070. I don't want to say it off the top of my head. We'll look that up. But there's a form and we can help you out with that to disenroll from Part B if that's what you want to do. And then you could just cancel your Plan G if that's what you want to do. But again, I would take a strong look at what are your benefits going to be for your new company. Just compare both of those. And that's what we do with people a lot. Like if you're going to be paying more than $250 a month for that, employer insurance, it may be worth it just to stay on Medicare, especially if you're only going to be working for another 2 or 3 years. You might want to keep your Plan G. You might want to just stay on Medicare. So that's another instance where I would say call a guide and kind of talk through it once you find out what that new employer benefit's going to look like.
Yeah, and generally, so when you're comparing, first off, it's Form 1763. 1763 is the form to disenroll for Part B. Okay. You would continue to keep Part A. So make sure if you do that, you don't go into an HSA, right? Because then you couldn't contribute to it if you do go to employer coverage. But really, I think it's 4 things that we need to know to be able to compare the Medicare, what you have on Medicare, to what's available on employer. So the first thing is going to be premium. What does it cost to have you covered on a monthly basis? What's coming out of your pocket? The second thing would be the deductible. The deductible is generally what we what you have to spend before the plan kicks in and pays anything. So on a Plan G, you have a $283 deductible. So if your employer coverage has a similar monthly premium or monthly cost and has a $5,000 deductible, then you're probably going to stay on Medicare. The third thing we need to know is the maximum out of pocket. So you pay out of your pocket till you meet the deductible, right? And then the plan kind of kicks in. And maybe it's a cost sharing 80-20 or 50-50. You've heard of these probably type of terms. And then there's a maximum out of pocket, meaning if everything went wrong in a calendar year, $1 million worth of bills, there's a maximum that you would have to spend out of your pocket. And for a lot of plans, employer plans, that's $10,000 or $12,000, whatever it is. So what's the max? So premium, deductible, max out of pocket. And the fourth thing would be if you're on any expensive prescription, like brand name prescription drug plans. A lot of times those can be a little bit more favorable getting covered by an employer plan because there's just, maybe it's a $10 or $15 copay for a brand as opposed to Medicare. You could spend up if you had to go, if you're on expensive stuff, it could be up to a couple thousand, I think $2,100 a year in out-of-pocket prescription drug cost. So that's kind of how we compare those things, but you would be able to suspend it, but it may not be best.
Yeah, I was going to say the only other thing I'd consider too is if you go to the doctor a lot, Karen, or you see specialists a lot, that employer plan is probably going to be an HMO or a PPO, and it might be a little restrictive on the physicians you can see. So that is a benefit of the Plan G as well too. You can see any doctor that takes Medicare in any state in the United States. So that's a perk to think about as well. All right, good deal. Next question here. Okay, John wants to know, is it okay to have an FSA with my work when I sign up for Medicare A this year? I'll only take A since I'm still working in a large company. Yes, that is fine, John. So it's the HSA, the health savings account, but the FSA, what's that, flexible spending account, I think? Yeah. But the FSA is fine. Healthcare reimbursements they give you is fine. It's just an HSA. So you're good to go. If you have an FSA, yeah, you could totally sign up for Part A and you'll be good.
If you missed out on staying with a group plan when your spouse passed away, is that still an option? Probably not. No, I guess I don't know that I fully understand the question. But if you went to Medicare instead of your group employer plan, I mean, there could be maybe retiree plans that have a spousal, maybe death benefit that allows you to go on that. I don't know that we would know that. You definitely have to call that plan administrator and see if that's an option. But my guess is no. Okay. Go ahead, Erika.
All right. I am 66 and on Medicare since 2024. I have an A and B and a supplemental plan. My question is, can I add dental coverage now or when? So yeah, the great thing about dental plans, vision plans, we can add those at any time. So there's no enrollment periods with those. They're separate from Medicare. So yes, give us a call. We have about 4 different companies I think we work with where we can look at those dental plans for you and what coverage you want, and we can really customize customize those. So you heard me say before that we can make it just a basic plan, or if you need a lot of work done, we can, get you everything you need to make it more robust. So yeah, absolutely. You can add the dental plans at any time.
Okay, my 65th birthday is in January of this year. When will I start incurring penalties if I don't sign up for Medicare? Well, first off, if you have employer coverage, which I feel like you do based upon another question you
She was
said.
in the health sharing. She's in the
She's the health share.
Medicare
Okay, if you don't sign
yeah.
up. Okay, well then, if that's the case, for every 12 months you go without coverage, you will be penalized. I believe it's 10% of the Part B premium. So if you went without for 2 years, right, you're going to have a 20% of that Part B premium, which is, 200 and what is it this year?
202.90.
So 202.90. So it'd be about a $40 a month penalty that you'd pay. Yeah, that's the answer to that question.
Yeah. And Sharon, you have a 7-month window. So around your birthday. So your birthday's in January. That means you're going to have pretty much February, March, and April. So you would have till like the end of April to sign up before you're out of that IEP. Okay. So yeah, unless your birthday is January 1st, right? And it doesn't sound like it is because we're past that. That would push everything up. But yeah, make sure if you're going to sign up for Medicare, you do it by the end of April, and then it would start May 1st. Okay. Or like Josh said, if you get out of that window, you won't be able to enroll till the next general enrollment period, and then you could get into those penalties.
Yeah, if you don't do it by April 30th.
I always say 30th. I am like, how many days?
Yeah, 30th. If you do it by April 30th, then you'll have to wait until the following January 1st to enroll with coverage beginning February. So you could go without, Medicare for about 10 months.
Yeah.
I enrolled in Part A last year when I turned 65. Now I want to know if I need B. I'm a federal retiree with Blue Cross and Blue Shield.
So FEHB, she has FEHB.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Yeah, so this is tricky. I was going to say this is tricky. So I talked to my mother-in-law about this. She's a retired employee, government worker with FEHB. So here's the deal. If you don't take Medicare Part B when you turn 65. So let's see. I don't know what month you turn 65, but you have a window to enroll in Medicare Part B. And if you say, hey, I'm just going to stick with my FEHB, I'm not going to take Medicare, it's kind of a permanent decision, because down the road, if you decide 3 years later, 5 years later, I do want to come into Medicare, then you will get that penalty. So like Josh said, every 12 months you go without Medicare, they're going to charge you 10% penalty, and that's a lifetime penalty. So I think as a federal worker, that's a decision you have to make, like when you turn 65 or when you retire. Are you going to take that Medicare Part B then, or are you just going to kind of stick with the FEHB? And honestly, the advice my mother-in-law was given, somebody said, hey, we know Part B is you have to pay a premium for it, but it's worth it because then you can, you have more freedom and more coverage, but it really is kind of a personal decision. So
if there are also, we have a lot of people that get these kind of MA only plans alongside. If you call us, we can kind of walk through and see if the FEHB benefits with Blue Cross and Blue Shield are better or worse than maybe what may be available. I guess the only thing I would say is if you get I believe if you're a federal employee and you get a Medicare supplement plan, that basically requires you to cancel your FEHB benefits forever, and you don't want to do that. A lot of people will end up getting a Medicare Advantage plan because that just suspends it, and it allows you to go back to your FEHB benefits every year. And so that would be my one caution. I wouldn't let anyone, unless you really hate your Blue Cross Blue Shield FEHB benefits, don't let anyone talk you into getting a Medicare supplement plan, because that would cause you to forfeit those FEHB benefits forever.
Good deal. All right. If you have a Medigap G plan, do you have to pay a Part A deductible? So yeah, there's so many plans. This can be confusing, right? So first of all, about 99% of people are not paying a Part A premium. So really, if you have a Medigap plan, so I'm right.
No, this is a deductible.
Yes, yeah. I get it. Yeah. No, you don't have to.
It.
Yeah, it covers it. So the Plan G covers 5 out of the 6 gaps of Medicare. So you don't pay the Part A deductible. All you would pay is the Part B deductible, which is $283. So no, you don't have to pay anything but that $283, and then the plan kicks in.
And that's actually one of the big benefits of getting a Medigap plan as opposed to just staying on original Medicare, because the way a deductible, generally that we think about a deductible, the way it works is that it's an annual thing. But the Part A, which is hospitalization, meaning you go into a facility, that's going to be billed under Medicare Part A. And that deductible is $1,763. Now, it doesn't sound like a big deductible, but then you realize it's a per benefit period deductible. And the way a benefit period works is, let's say you go into the hospital in January, you break your leg, you're going to pay that deductible. This is assuming you don't have a Medicare supplement plan that covers it. You're going to pay that $1,763. You come out of the hospital a couple days later, you're fine. That benefit period, I believe, lasts 60 days. So let's say on day 59 of you coming out of the hospital, you break your other leg, go back in. You would actually have to pay that deductible again. So that $1,763, if you were the most unlucky person on planet Earth and you went into the hospital every 60 days or 61 days, you could pay that up to 5 or 6 times a year. And so your Medicare Supplement Plan G is going to cover that Part A deductible. You do not have to worry about it. Pretty much any, F, G, or N, all of those cover that. They don't cover the Part B deductible, as in, boy, that Part B deductible, $283 this year, is an annual, so it works like every other deductible we know of. But the Part A is a little different.
Yeah, and I was going to say, this is kind of a side note. Like, anybody who's listening right now who's like, oh, should I do a supplement? Should I do an advantage? Or should I just stick with original Medicare? Sticking with original Medicare is just not a good idea.
No bueno.
And that's, and that's why, we talk a lot of people who watch our channel might say, well, Marvin seems like he leans towards supplemental plans, but we don't think advantage plans are bad insurance, right? They're very fine insurance, right? And it's definitely a better option than staying with original Medicare, because then you've got those 6 gaps. It's a huge financial risk. And the biggest one is that you're responsible for pretty much 20%, and there's no cap on that. So so just a side note to that, that's not answering your question, Deborah. You're covered with the G, but anybody out there who's thinking, hey, I'm not going to do either of these, I'm just going to stick with the original Medicare, just a little side note on that, since we're talking about these gaps.
Yeah, as a company, we will probably help around, I think last year we helped about 22,000 people enroll in new Medicare plans, 22,000 people, and about 3 out of 4 of those were a Medicare supplement plan, and 1 out of 4 people that we actually helped with an Advantage plan. So never want you guys to think like, wow, I can't afford this supplement plan. I definitely not going to call Medicare school because they hate Advantage plans. That's not true at all. We probably would slightly prefer them. But a lot of times they don't work for people's, maybe their budgets, or they're healthy, they don't want to spend money on a Medicare supplement plan, and they just want to use a Medicare Advantage plan. And so our goal is always the same, to help match you with the best coverage for your situation. And oftentimes an Advantage plan can just really, really work well. I think the first Advantage plan that we helped people in was back in 2011, and I'm thinking of a particular couple. They're still on a Medicare Advantage plan with Aetna, and it's worked really well for them. So, okay.
Awesome.
Next question. I retired 12/31/25, so 5 or 6 days ago. Happy retirement.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're enjoying yourself. Have Medicare A and B and employer insurance for supplement and drug. Is that okay? No. So, it's okay for a little while. But if you definitely want to get off that employer coverage probably before too long. You'd have to compare it, I guess. The drug, that's a very odd question. So you have A and B, and then you're using an employer insurance for a supplement. I'm not really for sure. Yeah, is this like a COBRA plan? I'm assuming it's a COBRA plan. Like maybe part of your severance package was they were going to pay maybe COBRA for a little while. That will get very confusing, I think, coordination of benefits. But maybe give us a little more detail on this. Maybe if it's a COBRA, that would make sense. A lot of people, I will say one mistake that a lot of people have is they'll get laid off. There will be a severance, something that goes on, and they won't get A and B. They'll just stick with their COBRA coverage. And what we've seen happen many, many times is that people do this. Their HR department maybe said, hey, we're going to 18 months we'll pay for your COBRA because that's the max we can do it, and then you can go on Medicare after that point. That is really bad advice, because what's going to end up happening is COBRA is going to say, well, they should have gone on Medicare. We're going to take a second payer position. We're going to pay after Medicare does. We don't care if you have Medicare or not. We're only going to pay secondary.
Yeah.
And so who gets put in the first payer position? Your checking account. And so you have $1 million worth of bills, right? All of a sudden, Medicare is supposed to pay 80%, and your Cobra is going to pay 20%. And yeah, I think the worst example we've had is somebody I think they had $80,000 that they had to pay out of their pocket before the Cobra ended up kicking in. So, yep, it's part of a package for 18 months where I pay normally employee. At least you have part A and B, Patty. That's good. Make sure you have A and B. I guess the Cobra will work. And then whenever you, at the end of about 18 months, give us a call. We can help you. Yeah, what we would normally tell people so that you don't have to go through any health underwriting or anything is you can use that supplement use that Cobra until the end of your Medigap OEP, which began on January the 1st for you, I'm assuming. If your Part B began January 1st, so you can use that for 6 months. And then you're still eligible to get a Medicare supplement, no health underwriting asked, and we'd love to help you. But you need to do that within 6 months of that Medicare Part B date.
Yep. All right, let's see here. My husband is 74 and on an Advantage plan. I heard that there is an additional plan we can add for $30, a monthly plan to cover copays and deductibles. So yeah, there's a couple different options here. So what you're referring to is we call it a copay protection plan, but it's also referred to as a hospital indemnity plan. So yeah, you can totally do that. It depends, the price depends on your area, 20, like you said, 20 to maybe $35 a month. But we pretty much customize it to go with your Advantage plan. So let's say your Advantage plan, one of the biggest expenses people have on an Advantage plan is when they're hospitalized. So maybe your husband's Advantage plan says that he has to pay $300 a night for the first 7 nights he's in a hospital. So what we would do, we'd set you up with one of these copay protection plans, and we'd set it for exactly that. We'd put, okay, you're going to get $300 a night for the first 7 nights, and it will reimburse you for those copays. So yes, we can add those, and we can add those at any time. Call in and talk to one of our guides. You can just say copay protection. They'll know what you're talking about. Another plan that you can add on that is really interesting that a lot of people don't know about, it's called a critical illness plan. So I always tell people, if you have heart attack, cancer, or stroke that run in your family, I have all 3 that run in my family. So it's almost like inevitable now with these critical illnesses. But there's something called a critical illness plan as well, where it's going to pay you out a lump sum. So they start, I think, around maybe $10,000. They go all the way up to like $70,000. And if you have a diagnosis of cancer, if you have a heart attack, you have a stroke, they will pay you that money out, and it is tax-free. And those are also like $30 a month. They're pretty inexpensive plans. So yeah, critical illness, copay protection, those both go really well with an Advantage plan to give you extra coverage. So yeah, call in. We'd be happy to help you guys with that.
Yeah, because the reason, like one of the kind of big things that happen, just to the last point you were talking about, like a critical illness plan, like all Medicare Advantage plans have a maximum out of pocket, meaning, something goes wrong, what's the most you're going to have to spend on these copays, co-insurance, infusions, all this stuff. Right. And the reason most people hit that maximum out of pocket is because they have a cancer diagnosis, right? Or they have a heart attack, or they have a stroke, or they have something that happens. And so we try to align these critical illness plans to cover that deductible. A lot of people think, whatever, I'll pay for it. But I'm thinking of a lady, her name was Sarah. She had got a cancer diagnosis. It was December of one year. And so she started her treatment in December and had a full round of chemo, whatever her treatment was, and so she had to meet her maximum out of pocket. It was $6,400, and so she had to pay that for December. She was obviously mid-treatment. January, the treatment continued. She turned around, had to meet another $6,400. So literally in the space of less than 60 days on a Medicare Advantage plan, she had to come up with $13,000 out of her pocket. And so we often pair a Medicare Advantage plan with one of these types of critical illness or a copay protection plan, we kind of call it around here. Either one of those plan types to help offset those large expenses, because it's a lot easier to pay $20-$30 a month for that as a prevention than it is to maybe come up with $13,000 in the space of a month. And if
Yeah,
you get
sure.
them, I believe I mean, it depends, but there's oftentimes, if you get them right when you turn 65, there's no health underwriting, and then, maybe there's some other windows where you can get those plans with limited underwriting.
Good stuff. All right, go ahead. You want to take this
My
one, Josh?
73-year-old's boyfriend plan G just went to 550. That is crazy. I've never even heard of that. Is there anything he can do to lower it beside going on Advantage plan? Yeah, give us a call. Let's go through some health questions. Let's see if he's healthy enough to make a switch for sure. Give us a call. Let's just work through his situation. We'll try to find a way. That is a very, I don't know what happened. I've never heard of a plan G being anywhere near that. So
That's really high. Yeah. Maybe they live on the East Coast
yeah,
or
maybe New
somewhere. I don't
York or
know.
something. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
I will say too, and maybe, we could shop and compare G to G. He could possibly go from a G plan to an N plan if he wanted to do that. But like Josh said, one thing I didn't know, our guides are really great. The different companies' underwritings ask different questions. So our guides really kind of know the intricacies of each company. Like one might ask if you're been on depression medications for 2 years or more. Another company may not ask that at all. Another one may ask your BMI, what's your height and weight, and another one may not ask that, right? So that's a good thing with kind of talking to the guides. They can find out and assess your health, ask you those questions, and kind of help you see what carrier is going to be the best for you. So all right. Okay, let's see. If living in a B-Day state, can you change from like to like or like to less without underwriting? Yes, you can. So if you're in a birthday state, like or like to less. I think it depends on the state, right? So I would Google the rules in your state. Sometimes it's just like to like. There's rules around it. So I would say look up the rules in your state specifically. But pretty much, Josh, in general, that's the
Yeah.
case when
Yeah.
you
Like
say.
to like or like to less. You must have
Mhm.
been listening to my dad. I feel like he's talked about that, using that term.
Yeah, he says that a lot.
Okay. I'm 70 years old on Medicare at Part A and B with supplemental plan G. Thinking of changing from my plan G to plan N. What do you think? I think it's a great idea. We always tell people there's a couple different ways to save money when you're on a Medicare supplement plan. The first one, let's talk about this. You can go from like to like. You can go from carrier ABC to carrier XYZ. Your coverage stays the same. Generally, you're going to do that because there's a premium savings. And I can't tell you how many times we'll talk to people. We'll save them $70, $80, $90, $100 a month by going from like to like, from a plan G with this carrier to a plan G with another carrier. That's one option. And all this depends on your age, your health, your carrier, your state, all that sort of stuff. But we can give you all those options. The other one would be going to a plan N. So let's talk about the difference between a plan G and a plan N. The primary difference, right, is that you're going to have a deductible. You're going to have a copay when you see your doctor, or copay when you go to the emergency room. So it can be $20. I think it's up to $20 to see your doctor for a copay, or up to $50 whenever you go to an emergency room. Okay, so that's a really small difference. So if you're going to save $100 a month from going to a plan G to a plan N, and you're just picking up that small copay, that's the primary difference. There's one other difference. There's something called an excess charge, and an excess charge is whenever Medicare or the provider does not accept the Medicare approved amount as payment in full. So legally, a doctor can charge up to 15% above what Medicare says is allowable. So let's say the bill is $100. The provider could say, nah, I'm going to charge $115. In that instance, the plan G will cover that $15. The plan N will not. That would be on you. That only happens, I think, less than 5% of the time. So it's very rare that it happens. But it can happen. It does happen. It's just not very common. And of course, we probably all don't care about $15, but what if it's an excess charge on a $10,000 bill? All of a sudden, you're looking at $1,500 that you have to come up out of pocket. But again, I think it's 3-4% of the time that this happens, and you can always, for the most part, just make sure you go to a doctor that accepts what's called Medicare assignment. Medicare assignment's the key thing there. So those are the only two differences, plan G to plan N. You're going to have a copay on a plan N, $20 to see a doc, $50 to go to the emergency room, and you could be responsible for very rare excess charges.
Yeah, and I wouldn't let that excess charges scare you away from going to the end if it can save you money. It's illegal in 8 states. So in 8 states, they're not even allowed to charge excess charges. And I actually found you can go to Medicare.gov. If you go to the Medicare.gov website and you type in find a provider, you can actually put your doctor's name in and it'll tell you right there if they accept assignment. It'll say this doctor accepts a Medicare assignment, so you pay less. So like Josh said, just be proactive about it, because a lot of people, they just freak out and say, oh, I don't want to go to an end because I'm worried about that excess charges, but it's super rare and you can be proactive to avoid it. So and you can save a lot of money going from a G to an N possibly if you're on a tight budget.
Is it really high to stay in the hospital with an Advantage plan? It can be. It really depends on your plan. So I think a good rule of thumb is a night in the hospital on an Advantage plan will cost you $300 or $400. There's definitely some plans where it's cheaper. There's definitely some plans where it's more expensive. But they usually also set a cap. So let's say you go in for a week. They're probably only going to charge you for maybe 5 or 6 days. So let's say it's $300 a day times 5 day is the max. Then you're going to come out with about a $1,500 bill.
So yeah, I've seen up to 4 to 8 days, about the first 4 to 8 nights, and I've seen it from anywhere from like $250 up to like $450 a night. So I would say the number one thing with these Advantage plans, I would say know how your plan works, because there's so many different Advantage plans. So you should have a summary of benefits. And if anybody who works with us, we always send you the summary of benefits. It's like a 4 or 5 page document. It's going to break down every little thing of what you have to pay for your Advantage plan, whether it's going to the foot doctor or a chiropractor or a night in the hospital. So I say that's the best thing you can do, is really educate yourself and know how your plan works. But that copay protection is definitely worth it, because that's the biggest expense, is when you are hospitalized, I think, most of the time.
Yeah, so oftentimes on those plans, we will just take the benefit, like what's it going to cost for you to go in the hospital. If it's $400 a day for 8 days, right, we kind of know that going in, and so we'll get a copay protection plan, maybe cost $30, $35 a month, and it would literally just reimburse you that full amount. We can set it up so it pays you $400 a day for 8 days. And in that instance, you don't even have to go in the hospital that full 8 days. It's still going to pay you, because it's a reimbursement plan. It's still going to pay you, $3,200, which is what 400 times 8 is. So we would set it to that max, and then if you went to the hospital, you get that full $3,200, even if you only stayed in one night.
All right. Roro says, oh, I'm late. That's okay. You're here. We're glad you're here. I signed up for A and I'm still working. I hope to retire by the end of March. I know I need to sign up for Part B and a supplement. Is there anything else? I live in Massachusetts. So no, let's see. Depending on when you're retiring, you have A. No, I mean, you're going to have to fill out those forms. It's probably going to be a SEP, a special enrollment period. So like that L564 form, you'll have your employer fill out. You'll need the CMS 40B. That's how you'll get enrolled for Part B. But you'll also need a drug plan. So if you sign up for a supplemental plan, at the same time, we'll set you up with a drug plan as well. You go to Medicare.gov and set that up. But we can help you get enrolled in Part B, shop for a supplemental plan, whatever that may be, and then you'll have a separate Part D drug plan as well for your drug coverage.
Yep. Donna, I'm 66 and I am enrolled in A and B. My full retirement age is this May. Okay, I have supplemental plan G. When do I apply for the Social Security? What things do I need for enrollment? Full retirement is in May. Probably about 60 days before, I think, is a good time to sign up for Social Security. Just sign up you can go to ssa.gov and sign up for that, and then your coverage or your check is always paid a month in arrears. So if you have that start in May, your first check would show up in June. Make sure you have your bank account ready. Make sure you have you got to have your login information. Hopefully you've got that saved. If not, you can set up an account. But yeah, you just set up for where you want to get the direct deposit, and then it will come. Your first check would be in June.
Yeah, and if you're paying right now for your A and B through a bill, they're going to start taking that out of your Social Security checks. So that's just a heads up on that. They'll start taking your Part B premium out of your Social Security checks when you get enrolled in Social Security. Okay, let's see. As a general question, Part B meds, are all Medicare Advantage plans have 20% coinsurance charge? Also, if you have a max out of pocket $4,500, the meds count towards that. So the drugs are all kind of different. Let's see.
Well,
Wait,
no,
Part B.
Part B meds. So
Yeah,
this would be
Part
something
B
that
meds.
gets
Yeah.
administered in a facility, so like
Gotcha,
chemotherapy or some
gotcha.
type of an
Yes.
infusion.
Okay. So yeah, that's going to be, do those all have a 20% copay, Josh, on
For
that
the
one? I'm
most
not real
part,
sure.
sometimes
Okay.
every once in a while, I think it can be a flat copay, but generally it's 20% on Part B meds.
Okay. And that's the thing too, that summary of benefits for your plan. If you have it, it should tell you for all, if you need cancer treatment or any of those medications, it'll break that all down for you on your specific plan. What was the second half of that question? I wanted to make sure we answered it and I lost the question there.
It flew away. There we go.
Okay. Also, if you have a max out, does that count towards that? Yep. Yes. So it's any money you spend in a calendar year is going to go towards that max out of pocket.
Not to be confused with drugs like prescriptions that you pick up at the pharmacy. Those are not going to go towards that max amount of pocket. There's a different, basically max out of pocket, and it's I think $2,100 in 2026. But that is not that drug. Prescription drug, self-administered at home, picked up from the pharmacy or mailed to you. Your regular meds. That is not included in the max out of pocket, but your Part B meds administered in a facility would be. Okay, guys, I think that is all the questions we have. Thank you for letting us hang out with you here tonight. It's always a pleasure. If we can help you, let us know, right? Our phone number is up here at the top of the screen, 833-3661. We will help you with anything Medicare related, Social Security related. Just call us, schedule an appointment. Our services are always free to you. We don't cost you a dime. There's no upcharge to use us or anything. We offer the insurance plans that you see on the airways that fill up your mailbox. They're on Medicare.gov, all of those. We are just brokers, and so we get paid by them. All of the people on our team that you will talk to, they do not make more or less money depending on what plan you buy. So there's no financial incentive to them to recommend one plan over another. They are really tasked with one thing, and that is to serve our clients just with happiness and joy, make it easy, not confusing, because we have two goals. We want you to buy an insurance plan from us that you keep for a very long time, and then we want you to tell all of your friends about us, about our channel, so that we can help more people. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you for joining us tonight. The phone number's on the screen. Yeah, it's just been a pleasure. Thank you guys.
Have a good night. See you, everybody.